Exciting news. I don't know if you can hear anything clucking around in the back of the car, in the trunk, in the hatch. New additions to Hidden Hollow Cottage. 2 new cluckers, a little rooster and a little hen. And I'll show them to you shortly. And yesterday we made some amendments to the chicken coop. So initially the egg laying area was just one big area and they really weren't enjoying it. So yesterday we divided it into 3 spaces and they really love it. Like even from day 1 today, they're super excited about this separation. They can sit quietly on their own. But I noticed that Sven, the rooster, sleeps in there at night, and I'm not sure that the hens want him on the roost with them, so maybe that is why he's sleeping there. And I think Freja as well is sleeping in there. They're just still getting used to each other. So, but it's super cute. I wish I could have about 25 chickens and have every color of the rainbow egg and be able to sell eggs. We just don't have the room here. But I'm going to be at my daughter's soon on her homestead and she has more room. So maybe I can convince her to buy more chickens over there. You never know. The thing about getting a rooster is that I thought I was never going to get one again. We had one years ago and he was very aggressive, and the person who sold him to us didn't tell us how aggressive he was, and that he'd never been handled, and he was just, yeah, he was awful. And he landed on the back of my shoulders one day when I was cleaning out the chicken coop, and you know, he obviously saw me as part of his flock and started pecking the top of my head. Anyway, yeah, so he didn't last long with us. But now this rooster that we got from a local breeder, from a local hatchery, is so sweet. He does this cute little dance and he is so good to his birds. So I got him with another hen, the moss egger, that lays like kind of mossy green eggs. And yeah, at the beginning there was a bit of a kerfuffle, but they're settling in now and they seem to really like the presence of the rooster. And he's, you know, he's not that loud, and my neighbor next door doesn't care that he likes the sound of a rooster. The other side is a school, the dance school, so they don't care. Across the street, I don't think they're going to be able to hear him enough for it to be a bother. And then behind us, well, there is one neighbor behind us, but it's not right. His land is against ours, but his house isn't, so he may or may not complain. But in any case, we're allowed to have a rooster here. Our neighbor gave us a little ladder for the chickens to have a little roost outside. So that's fun too. There's little Sven. Here's little Freya getting ready to lay an egg. And the little dividers that we made for them. On the subject of earthquakes, so let me start with that we're not from here originally. We're from the eastern side of Canada, from Ontario, And when we moved here, one of the first things we heard was, do you have your earthquake preparation pack? And of course I trotted off and bought one right away, because when you're living someplace where there's a chance of that happening, or it happens quite often, like smaller earthquakes, maybe you just get kind of lulled into this complacency that a bigger earthquake might not happen because you've been here for a long time and it hasn't happened. But because we were new, we were like, oh my goodness. So I went out and I bought the pack, and the emergency pack. And obviously we haven't had to use it in the last 8 years, but I do, aside of having the pack, something that we've talked about is, while we do have a big container of protein powder, because that is something that'll keep you going. Let's say you didn't have access to food for a few days, protein powder is the thing to have. And we should each have a bicycle in case we need to get somewhere and the roads are not passable. Steve has a bicycle, I do not, so we still have to get one of those. And other things we need to do in preparation for an earthquake is to secure the picture above our bed so it doesn't fall down and conk us on the head and knock us out. We need to secure some of the bookcases because they're big and they're heavy. Wouldn't want those to fall down. And just being aware of what to do if there is an earthquake. People used to say, go stand in a doorway, but that's not really what's recommended anymore. You're supposed to drop to the floor and hide under something like a desk or a table and hold on to one of the legs, and then get outside if it's safe, maybe safer to be outside. So those are things we've been thinking about. And honestly, it's been about 70 years overdue for a bigger earthquakes, like a 7.8, let's say, which happened I think in 1946. And so they say, it's hard to say overdue because it could happen any minute, or it could be overdue, or it might not be overdue, but they're saying according to how often that size of earthquake happens on Vancouver Island on land, we're about 70 years overdue. So 2 weeks ago, I was on my way up island and my phone alarm went off and said earthquake detected. So there was an earthquake on the mainland, but not far from Vancouver Island. And then a week later, there was another earthquake. And last night there was another earthquake. And they were all close to the 5. One was 4.1, then was 4.5. One was closer to 5, 4.8. Like strong enough that people felt it in their homes. We felt nothing. Maybe we're heavy sleepers, but my neighbor felt it quite significantly. And other people that we know felt it significantly as well, but there was no damage. But it's kind of odd, 5 of that magnitude close together. So, it kind of brought it up to my awareness to how prepared are we. We also have water storage, like I've got jugs of water stored in the outdoor shed. We have our little trailer that we could stay in if the house wasn't livable in, if there was a really big earthquake. We should have a tent, so that's another thing that I'm thinking about. In terms of the big earthquake, like a major Cascadia mega thrust earthquake, it's been around 320 years since the last one that was very, very significant, that sent a huge tsunami wave towards Japan. And what the earthquake people are saying is it could happen today, it could happen 100 years from now, or anytime. So like they say, if there's 30% chance of rain forecasted, then bring your umbrella. Like, you could just be prepared, basically. I don't sit around thinking about it all the time. I don't really think about what the worst disaster would be, but I do like to be prepared in terms of food and water and the supplies that I mentioned, the emergency pack that we have. We bought one for 4 people because we thought we might need to share with someone, for instance, a neighbor or one of our kids if they happen to be visiting or whatever. So that was the reasoning for that. But yeah, earthquakes. I don't really want to be on one. When my mom was alive, and I was talking to her about moving out west where the kids already were, she said, yeah, but you shouldn't move out there because they have earthquakes. And my reasoning was like, there's an earthquake. I want to be around my kids. I want to be near my kids. I want to know what's happening. And listen, if we're going to die, we should all die together. I know that sounds weird, but that's how this little person thinks anyway. So what are your thoughts on earthquakes? And do you live in an earthquake zone? And if you do, are you prepared in some way? I think most people are underprepared. I know I'm underprepared, even though we have the things that we do have in place. There's still more things that we could do. And like I said, I'm not only thinking about us, but also thinking about those around us. If we have any capacity to help someone in terms of a major earthquake or a tsunami happening, because listen, there could be a tsunami as well. So what can we do? Like, where's the higher ground? How can we help somebody else get to higher ground? Stuff like that. So that's what we're dealing with over here on Vancouver Island. Inside the little pocket at the top, there's wet wipes, there's light sticks, and there's earplugs and swabs. And then inside the bigger container is the food. There's an emergency hooded poncho, there's masks, there's a folding water container, there's a candle like that goes forever. What is this thing? A safety vest. And yeah, so then we've got the sleeping bags, gloves. I already mentioned the first aid kit, and then there's the masks. So I just wanted to say thank you again for being here, for watching my little videos, and just seeing what's happening on the homestead, what's happening on Vancouver Island. Hope you enjoyed the little trip up island to Tofino. And yeah, if it feels aligned with you, please subscribe and press like and share if you also feel inspired to do that. Thank you for being here.